Excel Tips. My name is Neil Blackwood, and in this episode we're going to look at how we can create a calendar in Excel. Now, typically you think of calendars as something that you would do in Outlook, and certainly you can print out a month calendar from Outlook. It takes a few steps. When I'm doing planning, I like to use a printed out calendar, similar to what we're looking at the moment, so that I can actually plan for the month. And so I actually create my own desktop calendar using what I'm going to show you today. This also allows me to demonstrate a number of different techniques in Excel which you might be able to apply to other solutions in Excel. Note, this is an advanced video, so you might need to pause and rewind to go over some of the concepts so that you can understand them. So what we're looking at the moment is the calendar that's ready to print out. I've used some fixed highlighting on the Sunday and the Saturdays so that we can see that they're the weekends. At the end of the session, I'll show you how you can use a conditional format to automatically apply the formats to the calendar. So we have an input cell, so we can select the month that we want to produce. I've actually keyed in the headings in this particular solution. And by the time we get to the end of the video, we'll see how we can automate those as well. Now, the magic sort of happens here in this particular cell, cell A3. There's the formula. You can see that going across in the formula bar. I will explain how this all works, but I thought I'd show you sort of one of the solutions. This formula spills across and down, so it's part of the dynamic array functionality that is now part of the subscription version of Excel, which is also called Office 365. You do need the latest version of Excel to work with this, or Excel 2021. So what happens is this formula, this single formula, spills across for 7 columns and down for 6 rows. Now I'll just explain why we have 42 cells here. So the 7 by 6 gives us 42 separate cells. You'll notice that in this month, we don't need this last row. But for some months that start in the Friday and the Saturday, you might need to go into this last row. I can show you that with November next year in 2025. And you'll see that we start, the 1st is on the Saturday and the 30th is on the Sunday. That's why we need the matrix that includes 42 separate cells so that we can handle the times when we need these last couple down the bottom here. Okay, so let's go back to 2024. The formula spills across and down. I'll just remove the formatting so you can see that. I'll actually just remove the formatting here and you'll see it spill down. So you can see this blue line, so that's the spill range. The formula is only in the top left cell, which in this case is A3. And that spills across and it spills down. So if you click in any of the other cells, you'll see that the formula is grayed out, which basically means there's no formula there. There's only a value displaying, which is driven by this single formula in cell A3. Okay, so let's look at where we're going to get to so you can sort of have an idea by the time we finish the video. So this is a dynamic solution. So what I've done is I've used a holidays listing here. So what I want the ability to do is use a different highlight for these particular dates. So Remembrance Day is the 11th of the 11th, and you can see that has gone orange. And the Saturday and Sundays are grey. So I'm going to change this formula, and this is what's called a custom function, which we're going to eventually build. I'm going to change that to a 1, and so this is going to update the whole system to work from Sunday. And so you can see here that now Sunday and Saturday are separated. The grey has moved across, and the Monday now has this orange based on these two dates. If you delete a date, then that automatically updates on the calendar as well. let's put this one back to where it was, and let's go and explain how all of this works. You can download this file from the In the Black website, and it's ready to go. So I'll be explaining the formulas, but it's a ready to go file. If you copy particularly this one across to another file, then this custom function will be available in that other file. Okay, so let's go back to our original formula here. So this formula here is what makes the numbers work. And so we're going to start with this and actually work backwards to show you how to get to this situation. So let's go back in time and we'll go back to this particular formula. What we need to do is to create a matrix of 42 days. So we need to then convert that into the days of the month for the particular month that we've got in cell A1. Now, I have used a format on this particular cell to put this across the page. Now, I haven't used merge and center. In general, I avoid trying to use merge and center. There is another way to do this. So you select the range and click on this little drop down for alignment, and it's called center across selection. If you click the drop down, it's the second last entry, and that gives us this centering, but you can still select the individual cells. With merge and center, you basically create one big cell. It's got a downside when you use merge and center in that it can affect copying and pasting. It can also, believe it or not, crash macros. So in general, I avoid using merge and center, and I use the center across selection. And so that's the input cell. That's the month that we're going to be using. We always need to use the first of the month there. I've keyed in these days at the top. We will automate that as we go through. But let's start with getting the 42 numbers. So what we need is a list of 6 rows and 7 columns with sequential numbers in them. And Excel has a way to do that with the sequence function. So the sequence function gives us, in this case, 6 rows and 7 columns, and that will create the numbers from 1 to 42. So that's where we start. So that's our numbers. Now, at the moment, these numbers don't represent anything to do with November. They are just 42 sequential numbers split across this matrix. But we can convert these numbers into numbers that actually relate to November. And that's what we can see in this next formula. So this formula here is sort of where the magic happens. We start with cell A1, which has the 1st of November 2024. We add the sequence to it. That's going to add the numbers from 1 to 42 to that date, and then subtract the weekday function. The weekday function returns a number from 1 to 7. Now, the default for the weekday function is to use Sunday as the start of the week. So Sunday is number 1 and Saturday is number 7. By subtracting the weekday number from the date created by adding the 1st of November to the sequence function, we line up the dates with the correct day of the week. The day function then extracts the day of the month from that date. So as you can see, I've got the numbers from 27 to 31. They're not in November, they're in October. The 1st, however, is when the 1st of November is, and that's in the Friday. So that is correct. And as we go further down, these numbers here, the 1 to 7, this is actually in December. So that formula gives us the correct alignment of these dates with the days of the week that start on a Sunday. We don't want to display these other months. We only want to display the November dates on this particular calendar. So that's where we have to then use the more complex formula here, which is doing a comparison. This is the formula from the previous sheet that gave us the correct date for the day of the week. So what we're going to do is we're going to check the month of A1 against the month of the formula that we've used. If they are equal, so if the month in A1 matches the month here, we're going to display the day of that formula. So you can see here that we're using this part of the formula twice. I'm going to show you an alternative to that in a minute. So that gives us our dates, and then we're just checking each one of those. If they are equal, so if the month in A1 equals the month of the date that we've got, we take that formula again and we use the day function. The day function gives us the day of the month. So it gives us, in this case, the numbers from 1 to 30. So it just only displays the day. So if I highlight all of that, 27, 28, 29, that's all of those numbers that were displayed in the previous sheet. And we're only going to display those when the months are equal. When the month of our matrix equals the month in cell A1. If it's not equal, so all of those other months, so we've got October and December dates, we're going to display a blank. And the easy way to do that is just to use the double quotation marks together. So this formula also spills across and down, and it hides the other months from the matrix. As I mentioned, this part of the formula is duplicated. It's in there twice because we need to figure out the date. Because it's in there twice and it's fairly long, what we can do is use a function called the let function. And that allows us to capture that and then to reuse it. And we can use a variable to capture that. So let's have a look at that version of the formula. So this is the let version. As you can see, it's a bit shorter. And so what we do is the let function allows us to define a variable. I've just used D in this case. And then we can tell Excel to capture that matrix as the variable D. And then we can insert the D in the formula that we had before. So again, we're checking the month in A1. We're comparing that to the month of D. So that's saves some space. And then if that is equal, we just put the D in the day function. So that allows us to shorten the formula quite a lot compared to the previous one, because this is only in there once and it's captured. The let function allows you to reduce complex formulas down to a shorter version, and it's also easier to understand in a lot of cases. Now, I will show you something you can do with the let function to make it even easier to read, because at the moment that's all on one row. What we can do is, I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger in the formula bar. So what we can do is use, there's a keyboard shortcut to put a line break into a cell. Now that also works for formulas. So it's Alt, I'm holding the Alt key down and press Enter. There we go. So that is D, and that is defined as that formula. Now I can do the same on the end here, Alt Enter. And what this does is it splits the formula up to make it a little bit easier to understand. So the idea is you define your variables at the top of the let function. I have covered the let function in other articles and videos as well, so you can check that out on the In the Black website. And so once you've defined that variable, you can then use it in the rest of the let function. This is sort of the best practice for displaying the let function. Having the line breaks in here, by the way, doesn't affect the formula at all. At the moment, what we do is there's three separate sections here. We've got an input cell for November, or the month, and then we've got the days of the week going across. We can actually incorporate the days of the week into the formula. So at the moment we've got a 6x7 matrix. We can actually create a 7x7 matrix and capture the headings as well. So let's have a look at how we can do that. This is a similar formula. We've got the same variable calculation at the top, But what we're going to do is add another variable to capture the headings. Let's see how that works. HDG is the heading variable. I'm using the choose rows function. The choose rows function is extracting the first row of dates from our date matrix. The text function then takes those dates and converts the dates into the abbreviation for the day of the week, so MON for Monday. Okay, so having captured that as a separate variable, we can then use another new function called VStack, stands for vertical stack. And again, I've covered that in previous videos. So the vertical stack is the HDG variable, which is all of the headings going across the top, and then our formula that gave us our day numbers with the previous months hidden. It's pretty much the same formula with an extra variable to capture the headings, and then we use the VStack function to combine the heading, so that heading row, with the numbers underneath. So this formula is a 7 by 7 matrix. We still use the 6 by 7, that hasn't changed, but what we've done is we've incorporated the headings, the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, in the formula. So it's a single formula that gives us the headings and the dates underneath. I mentioned earlier that we can handle starting on a Monday. So that's my preferred way to look at the week. So let's have a look at formula number 4 here. Believe it or not, it's really easy to change the formula to work and start on a Monday. Here is the original formula, and this is the only part of the formula that we need to change. The weekday function defaults to a Sunday start to the week, but it has an optional argument that allows you to select the start day, and you can choose a Monday start to the week. Type your comma. You have the ability to start on other days, and all I need to do is use this (2) option, which starts on a Monday. And so Monday is number 1 instead of Sunday. And so that's what I'm going to do. So the only difference between this formula, which starts on the Sunday, and this one, which starts on the Monday, is that this has (2) as part of the weekday function. So something you might think would be complex is actually very easy to adapt. And that's it. So this formula works with a Monday start week, and the previous formula works with a Sunday start week. When you have this fairly complex formula, this is an ideal situation to create a custom function. A custom function is what we actually looked at earlier. I'll show you it again here. This is a custom function. I'm basically taking that date from A1, and then I'm using either (1) or (2) to start. (1) is a Sunday, (2) is the Monday start. And so this formula does exactly the same thing as we've just looked at, but a lot easier to use. The name, you can put whatever you want. I always use a prefix of FN for my custom functions, just so that I know it's different from Excel's built-in functions. And so I've just called it calendar. And so I can change that to a 1, and that will update to start on the Sunday. So that's a custom function. So let's see how we build that. So we can take this complex formula, which is creating our matrix at the moment, and convert it into a LAMBDA function. So let's see how we do that. The LAMBDA function allows you to create custom functions. Okay, so this is the LAMBDA version. So what we do is we have the LAMBDA function at the start. The LAMBDA function starts with its arguments. These are a bit like variables. So this is the argument. I've used the shortcut MTH for month, and I've used the word start. So those two are the arguments for the LAMBDA function. Then we use a comma, and then we do our formula. So that's our formula there. So that's exactly the same as we've just used. But what I've done is I've converted the let function to use these arguments. on the end here, because this is the lambda function to test the formula. As we saw, this is not the final solution, but we need to test it. So this is how you test the custom function. So lambda is the start, and at the end, unusually, we have another set of brackets or parentheses here. So these are the inputs to the lambda function to test. So A1 goes to MTH and 2 goes to start. And so they are the inputs to the lambda, which is how we test the lambda as a custom function. The MTH has A1 in it. That goes here and goes there. So that used to have A1 in it, and now it's got MTH. And the start has a 1 or a 2 in it, and so that just goes to this. So that is then used exactly the same as it was before. The D now is working with the A1 and the number 2 here, and that just flows through exactly the same as it was before. So this, by the way, you never use this version of it as the final solution. This is only ever used as a testing to make sure it's working correctly. Once you've got this, then all you do is you copy that part of the formula. So I'll do that, Ctrl C. So you copy that part of the formula and then go to formulas, define name. I'll just call it fncal, and I'm going to paste that there. Okay, and click OK. So now I can go somewhere else, and let's do it here. Equals fncal, open bracket, I want A1 and then comma 2. So this, when I hit enter, is going to list out exactly the same as we've got on the left hand side. There we go. So Monday, Tuesday, I think I've got a different font size, so it looks a bit bigger. But if we scroll down, we'll see that it matches. And there we go. So that's how you can create a custom function. You can do some other stuff in the custom function. If I go and have a look at that, if we have a look at the calendar version, let's go and edit that. What I've done is I've added in the comments section, you can put some documentation there that helps the user. So that takes a little bit of typing. There's also a tip here. When you want to put a line break in this comment section, you need to use Control and Enter, and the Enter needs to be on the full-size keyboard on the Enter on the far right-hand side. So Control Enter allows you to put a line break in this comment section. And I'll show you how that works. So once you've built it into here, click OK. If I go back and I'll build it over here. So if I say equals fn calendar, and if I get rid of that, so you'll see that all of that entries I had from the comment section is displayed here. So it helps the user understand how to use it. When I hit the opening bracket, then you'll notice it has MTH and then start. So again, that's showing, they're the argument names that we used. So again, I can just click there, comma 2 starts on a Monday, and comma 1 starts on a Sunday. And again, that's explained. You can see where the 1 and the 2 come from. That's explained in the description here, but I had to put that in. So that's documentation that I've added to the function to actually put it in there, to make it right. There we go. Okay, so that is explaining a fairly complex formula and then showing you how you can convert that complex formula into a custom function, which makes it very easy to then use going forward. So you've captured all of the complexity in the custom function, and now you have a very easy function that you can apply. Once you start using, as we saw here, the lambda, you do need to expand the formula bar a bit. There's a keyboard shortcut to hide and unhide. So if we go Ctrl Shift and the letter U, that puts it back to a single line. And if I press it again, Ctrl Shift and the letter U, it unhides it. So that's a useful shortcut to be aware of. Okay, and you can also drag the formula bar to make it bigger if you need as well. Okay, so let's go have a look at the final solution here. So I'll make that smaller. The conditional formats that work for the grey highlighting and the orange highlighting. Let's go back to Home, Conditional Formatting, and Manage Rules. So I've selected the range. There are two formats. The first format is a little bit of a cheat. If I double click that, we can have a look at it. I'll zoom in on this one. What's important here is where the $sign is. So for this whole range, it's always looking at row 2 because there's a $sign in front of the 2. But because there's no $sign in front of the A, it's using a relative reference for all of the other columns. So all of the other columns just look at row 2 here. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for, if the left character is an S, then I'm going to put the grey format there. So it's a formula I've used here. So that's the conditional format that is the highlight of the grey changes. It's a little bit of a cheat. It's a quick way to figure out if it's a Saturday or a Sunday. If it starts with S, then it's a weekend. So that's the first one. Now this one's a little bit more complex. This is the one that works with the holidays. So I've just called it holidays, but this yellow range here, I can put any date in here. And if that date exists on our matrix, it will go orange. So I've used a COUNTIF function. So basically I'm looking in the range in column I, and I'm creating a date using the date function. So I'm taking the year of A1, the month of A1, and then whatever's in the current cell. Now, the $signs again are really, really important here. When you're creating a conditional format for a range, you need to use fixed and relative in the right way. And that can take a little bit of trial and error. But all of these other ranges are fixed except the number of the day, which is A2 in this case. And that is the one that is highlighting. So in this case, A2 is not a date. It's actually the text of SUN at the moment. But for all of the other rows, it's actually going to have a day in there. So this date function creates a date for those particular cells. So it's going to be the 1st of November, the 2nd of November. And if that date is in the list, so the COUNTIF is going to give greater than 0. So when you create a formula-based conditional format, this formula must return true for this format to be applied. And I've just clicked the format button and I've selected a color. I've just used a light orange and that's it. So this COUNTIF function counts how many times the date in the matrix is in the yellow range. If it's in there more than once, more than 0, it means it's there, and so that date will go orange. And so that's the conditional format that is flexible and works with this particular case. Okay, so I've covered a lot of different techniques in this video. You might need to watch it a couple of times and just go over it. Again, you can download the file which is ready to use from the In the Black website. You can also check out the article on the In the Black website. So I hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching.